Hi, everybody. It's Winter Mute coming to you from the think tank. And I've had several people mention that they wanted me to do a flyby of my map. Now, this is the biggest one available that you can purchase. I went ahead and went bonkers and bought that. I wasn't going to do a map flyover because there's so many people that have done those already. I'm like, I didn't, I just thought that would be kind of overdone. But people have been asking to see the big map, one. And two, I wanted to kind of point out some things that I've noticed about this map to take into consideration and some of its changes. So with that said, you can see, I'll try to hold the camera as still as I can, but it's not on a tripod or anything. This is my dining room in my house. If you are considering what size map to get, one thing I will point out is when I had the one size down map, I could stand here at the very edge and easily reach over and touch the other end, and so I had the full reach of the map. This bigger map, I can't do that. I can't actually stand on this side and reach up to Norway, and even northern Germany gets a bit difficult at times to be able to reach that. So I actually had to leave space on the other side of the table there so I can get around when I need to maneuver that. So if you're wondering what size you should get, I would take that into account. Now I'm 5'8" and have probably a very average reach. If you're taller, it may not be as big a deal for you. But if distance and reach and comfort of play is an issue for you, then think about that before you buy the size of the map. Like I said, I'm average height, average reach most likely, and the one size down was perfect. This bigger size poses some issues, so I had to make more space. So with that said, oh, by the way, the map is not fully set up. I had kind of been messing around with in Europe a little bit, doing a few turns over there. And I don't have the Japan and anybody over there set up. I just didn't. I just didn't have the time or the will to do it. I've got other stuff going on right now, so I'll get around to resetting everything and doing a kind of a run through on my own. But that's not a high priority right now. I've got other things to take care of. So I will point out some of the changes for those who maybe aren't familiar with some of the stuff that's changed on this map compared to the last edition. If maybe you don't have the newest map yet and you're not sure what they are, there aren't many territorial changes. There are a few, and the few that are there are important. Some are more important than others, but like Brazil has a fourth space now. So there's that. A couple important ones are London is its own city zone now, and you have a new territory called the British Midlands. So now all of Britain, including Northern Ireland, is 5 actual spaces, and then up there in Norway is 3 spaces now rather than just 2. So that can change some stuff when you're planning on a movement and things like that. Most of Europe and the Balkans and the Iberian Peninsula is the same. Most of the Middle East is the same. They did add the city of Tobruk here to Cyrenaica. Cyrenaica? I am not sure how to pronounce that, but to this territory here, they added Tobruk as a important tactical or strategic city. Greece is also now 3 territories. They now also have Macedonia. So now you've got Thessaly, Macedonia, Peloponnese, I believe, and Crete are all part of Greece now. And I don't think there were any other major changes to Africa or the Middle East for that matter. When we go up to Russia, there are 2 changes. One is that territory called Northern Russia is now broken into 2 territories. Which was, I'm not sure why they made that decision, but I have guessed it has something to do with being able to land in northern Russia and then immediately hit Moscow the next turn. They may not have wanted that to be the case, but so that is 2 territories now. And then over here you've got Novosibirsk, otherwise known as Tenkograd. is now its own, an actual city. It's actually a round space. So that changes it gets all the rules and bonuses of a city and that sort of thing. But realistically, I looked at the old map. The way it touches the other territories really doesn't change. So other than it being designated a city, that's the only real difference. It doesn't change the way it connects to other territories. And then I think most of Asia down into Australia is basically the same. Although Tokyo is now its own city as well. So now you've got instead of that middle territory all being Tokyo, you've got Honshu and then you've got Tokyo, which is also probably a good thing in the overall scope of strategy and whatnot. Now there's also some new islands out here. I couldn't tell you which ones specifically are new or have been added. You'd have to kind of look at the old map and figure them out for yourself. But I do know that there's some islands like down here. I've even got them covered up. They're so remote. And I think there's a few more islands off of Africa's coast that weren't there before. Beyond that, that's most of the changes on the board itself for the territories. The other big change are the new terrain types. And you can see there's some jungle here in the Belgian Congo, and there's some jungle over there. The real place that I think it's going to be most impactful with the new terrain types is going to be, there's going to be some Middle East stuff, because now all of this is most of this is designated desert. So that'll change the way that this battle kind of may play out. But a lot of it is going to be, a lot of the new terrain features are over here too, because suddenly these islands are all jungle, and that means that they could be even more of a pain in the butt to take. And same thing up through here. You've got jungle and mountain in here, so that may really change the dynamic of how some of these battles go out here. May make life a lot more difficult for the Japanese and easier for the defenders, or it could be vice versa when the defenders try to liberate some of that stuff and the Japanese are defending. So, when you look at this map, really take some stuff you got to take more into consideration than you did with the last map. Not just some of the territorial changes, but also the terrain changes, assuming you're playing with those rules. But even something one step further than that is all these, the way they change naval bases now. You've got the 3 different types, and then each type has a minor and a major. And when I was planning my strategy for Japan, I really had to start at the ground up and reevaluate the map. Because now I started looking at, because you have to look at what each icon means and what bonuses it gives. But then I also started looking out at some of these islands, and maybe I started assessing, maybe I want to upgrade this to a major port to get that +1 movement bonus as part of an overall strategy. Maybe this is a better place to stage my units with that upgrade in terms of being able to reach out and do what I want to do, depending on taking some of these territories. Also, when you're looking at some of the territories you want to invade, you may really tell yourself, you know what, I would really like to take Indochina, but I know in the long run, I really need this shipyard to be able to repair my capital ships. So you actually have a reason to reevaluate your targets for different reasons than what you did in the last game, or last version, because it was all just naval base. Everything was just a naval base. But now this shipyard can repair, this major port cannot. So Japan may want to take this first. This may be a higher priority for them. Not just for them, but also to deny it to the British. So the way you look at these different territories is different in this version, or can be different in this version. So take that into account as you're kind of reevaluating the map. And like I said, I looked at other places, like what if I make that a major port? What if I make that one a major port? Well, now how far can my ships get? If I stage them up there, that extra movement point. Maybe I can go after Alaska or something, or do something crazy. Maybe I can, do something really weird like that. So you really gotta take the time to reevaluate what you think you know about the board based on the last edition compared to this edition. And same thing for the allies. Maybe the allies here, or the FEC, they have a major shipyard here or a major port here. They don't have a major port in this sea zone. So maybe they want to take the effort and upgrade one of these two into a major port, so that they get that movement bonus, or they get that Lend-Lease, unlimited Lend-Lease coming in, depending on how things work. Because maybe they're blocked from getting Lend-Lease one way, but if they upgrade this to a major port, they can start getting Lend-Lease that way. So again, you really got to rethink how you look at the map, and I think that's really important for some people to kind of. I know it was super important when I was doing Japan. I didn't do anything major, and I'll eventually go into what strategy I was going to use for Japan and explain some of my thoughts on it and where I thought I should upgrade or not upgrade certain ports. But that's for another video. And then same thing, over here, you got to start looking at some of these sea zones, and some of these places that have airfields, and kind of start counting and going, oh, you know what? Eastern Germany doesn't start with an airfield. So the German player has to ask himself, what if I go ahead and build an airfield there? How far could my aircraft get? Does that change my strategy? Does that give me one extra space of reach that may really pay off in the long run? And things like that. So really, you got to reevaluate. You don't want to go into this version assuming you know how everything is going to pan out. One other change, and I don't know if this is a change, but it's an observation I made, and General Hangrenade mentioned it in a few videos ago. These naval or convoy routes don't have, they only belong to one nation now. So that's another big change. So this one is FEC. Now, one thing I noticed, all the routes are basically the same like they used to be, other than they only belong to one nation now. One, but two, I noticed this route for the FEC starts here, runs all along here, and actually ends here. So this is actually an FEC line. This is not British. This is not for Britain itself. This is actually for FEC. I don't know if anybody else had noticed that. And I don't know whether it was like that on the version 2 map or not. I don't believe it was. But that's just one thing that I noticed. So if Italy or Germany wants to hit Britain in the Mediterranean, it has to start here. The war for the Atlantic has to start here, because here you're hitting the FEC, which is a perfectly reasonable thing to do, especially to give Japan a hand in keeping their money under FEC's money under control. That may be a perfectly reasonable thing to do. But other than that, noticing that kind of thing that's slightly different. All the lines themselves basically run the way you would expect them to and belong to the nations you would expect them to. And so those are kind of my observations about the differences of the map in this edition. If I missed anything, or anybody thinks that there's anything that I need to kind of add or point out, feel free to leave a comment and say, oh yeah, you know what, I also noticed this territory was a little different, or that sea line or that trade line runs from here, and so on and so forth. And then in later videos, I'll talk about specifically some of these places that maybe need to be upgraded or changed or addressed in terms of what tactical and strategic advantages they can give you in certain territories. So again, leave any comments if you've got any questions or anything you want to add. And as of now, this is Wintermute signing out from the think tank. Talk to you later.